Hello, I'm Paul Dallas, Chair of the Illustration Program, and this tutorial is intended to help students prepare for thesis, and in particular explain what is meant by a thesis framework. It's the same material presented in the information sessions, only it's not interactive, apart from enabling you to turn me off whenever you want. I won't be offended. So, what is an undergraduate illustration thesis? In the illustration program, thesis is defined as a self-initiated, faculty-guided learning experience, culminating in the creation of a significant and unified body of work based on an approved statement of intent. The objective of a thesis is to encourage originality and independence, and to develop consistent studio work practices that ensure personal and professional growth and goal setting in post-academic years. So, how do you prepare? To start, you can review ocaduillustration.com, a website and archive of past thesis projects, but view it with a critical eye as it features a range of success. Once you've finished this tutorial, you should be able to determine which projects are the strongest. And one more thing, don't assume that everything that has been done before and simply propose a thesis that's a variation on a past project. Despite all the projects, they by no means represent the limits of topics, ideas, and approaches possible. As well, you can attend the annual graduate exhibition in early May and see the work in person, and you can attend the fourth year thesis megacrits. A megacrit is a group critique of the entire thesis cohort and faculty compressed into 3 hours. There's currently one in each semester, although we may have to cancel this event if our enrollment increases. There are also 2 information sessions, the first in February, which this tutorial covers, and the second in March, which is a Q&A, where you can address your questions to faculty and current thesis students. You'll be invited to both the critiques and the information sessions by email from Reg Services. In addition, you'll complete a thesis prep assignment in the third year winter core course. It is designed to give you a sense of the process. And finally, attached to the aforementioned emails from Reg Services, you'll receive a statement of intent handout. It will be uploaded to your third year core Canvas page, and the handout has instructions for writing pitches due the week prior to Class 1 of Illustration 5 thesis. Here's what the statement of intent handout looks like. It is an expanded 6-page version of the third year prep assignment. Taking a closer look, it explains that due 1 week before Class 1, you are to email 3 elevator pitches and framework. An elevator pitch is a short, clear 1 or 2 sentence description of your proposal that communicates your idea and framework. Framework is a focus, angle, or twist on a chosen topic. In other words, how you approach your topic. I'll expand on this later. Due Class 1, you are to submit hard copy of 3 elevator pitches and framework. Also for each pitch include written descriptions for 10 illustrations, linears made for 3 of your 10 illustrations, and color samples of your previous work. Due Class 5 is the full statement of intent, roughly 500 to 750 words, not including bibliography and timetable. Although this is due later, you need to consider these components when writing your pitches. Description of project, rationale, creative process and methodology, learning objectives and outcomes, examples, bibliography, and weekly timetable. What is meant by these headings is broken down in the handout, but at this point it's more important that you understand just what constitutes a good thesis idea. It can be reduced to 5 simple points. Originality, an idea that will interest a wide audience, art directors, and you. An idea that lends itself to visuals. An idea that has at least 10 distinctly individual aspects to it to illustrate as a body of work. And a framework. So, what is a framework, you ask? As I previously mentioned, a framework is a focus, an angle, or twist on a chosen topic. It is how you approach your topic. A pitch has 3 parts to it. a what, which is the topic, a how, which is the framework, and a why, which is the point. And to illustrate what this means and how it applies, I've broken down 6 past thesis pitches. So in this chart, you'll see the first 3 examples. In this column, we have the pitch and the student's words. And in these 3 columns, I've broken down the pitch into the what, the topic, the how, the framework, and the why, which is the point of the thesis. So, if we start here and we think about the fact that the student has chosen as their topic children's games, they propose to frame the topic by visually synthesizing children's games with adult courtship. And the reason for all this is to imply that we don't grow up. Put in other words, the playground compares children's games to the games that adults play by synthesizing both visually, implying that human beings never grow up. And over in this column, I've written a few of the illustration descriptions that were submitted with the statement of intent proposal. The first being that the student compared this children's game, hide and seek, with this aspect of courtship, which is sex, and it eventually generated this image, and here it is enlarged, along with the image for another comparison between the game of dodgeball and a deadbeat father. The next example is called The Willing. And the willing questions the intentions of peculiar wills and the idea of maintaining an influence once you've left this world. So, the topic is real last wills and testaments. How the student approached it was to interpret these last wills and testaments to show unforeseen results. And the point of this is to question our earthly influence when dead. One of the examples she gives is about Jack Benny, who instructed that his widow receive a single long stem rose each day. A rocking chair made of thorny roses suggests the burden and tedium of it continuing to her old age. And again, here is a final image that was generated from that particular illustration description, along with an accompanying illustration that had to do with Robert Louis Stevenson, who willed his birthday to a young girl, and that young girl then had the burden of celebrating her birthday twice a year. The next example, the topic is True Pet Stories. They will be interpreted and translated into panel art, and the point of this is to question unbridled love. Put perhaps more lyrically, Heavy Petting is a series of sequential art about true pet stories demonstrating how perverted unbridled love can be. The first example is about a dog that disappeared from its owner in Iowa and returned 7 years later. The dog may have left out of spite or looking for a more exciting life. And here is that series of illustrations or panel art for that particular idea, along with 2 other series of panels, each series of panels counting as one illustration. The next chart of 3 samples begins with a piece called Work-Life Balance. The topic is professions and hobbies. How are they going to be approached? By combining them in an ironic and humorous manner. And the reason for doing this is to question collective wisdom, suggesting that we follow our passions. Work-life balance depicts the incompetency that occurs when people try to integrate their true passions into their vocations. The first example is combining a mortician and a magician. A mortician whose passion is magic. And here are the unseemly results right here, along with another illustration about somebody who is a house painter and combines his passion for fine art painting. The next example, the topic is Eastern and Western cultural practices. They will be visually compared to dispel the notion that some cultural practices are more eccentric and extreme. Ethnomobius compares Eastern cultural practices viewed as eccentric and extreme to Western conventions by illustrating their uncanny visual similarities. And the example given here is as a comparison between the coffin academies in South Korea and Western tanning beds. Along with another illustration having to do with two other pairings of Eastern and Western cultural practices. And the final example, and by now you've realized that if you take all three components of the framework, they equate to the pitch that was submitted by the student. So make sure that when you're writing your pitch, that you can break it down into three pieces. The topic, unfinished monumental projects. The framework is that they are depicted, showing the reasons for their remaining unfinished. And the point of all of this is to illustrate the pitfalls of ambition. Unfinished Utopias is a series of images illustrating the reasons why certain monumental projects remain unfinished, exploring themes of perpetuity, overachievement, the pitfalls of ambition, and the reasons we fail. And the first example is of King Ludwig II's Frankenstein castle. Ludwig planned to transform medieval ruins into a magnificent fairy tale castle, but considered the blueprints too modest. He died before a design could be decided upon. And here's the final piece that was produced for that particular illustration description, along with the Palace of the Soviets and the Cincinnati subway, all failed projects. So that's it. I hope this has been helpful. I have just one last bit of advice, and that's start thinking about your proposal now. Don't leave it to the last minute. Thesis is a great experience that you don't want to squander. It's a rare opportunity to create a unique, unified portfolio on an idea that you are excited about. And so be positive, be bold, and plan for a great final year. Wish you all the best. Cheers.